As a matter of fact, that was the reason why we never did it. We kind of felt like, who are we? We yeah, we can preach the word and everything, but as far as marriage, I was like, we really don't have much to say as far as experience wise. And then we looked at the calendar and we like, wait a minute, hold up, we've been together for a long time. Just we just look good, okay? So we've been married since 2010, and now we're in we're in 2010, right? Shoot, girl, we've been married for a long time. So 16 years. So that's a long time, especially for today's generation, in our age group and everybody's sphere of the same age, and you just don't hear about that a lot now. With the generation that's before us, it was more common for y'all guys to stay together. We have people that have been married for how long? Y'all been married, Giannotis? 40 years. You see, brother Ed, how long y'all been married? 36 years. So yeah, and Mr. and Miss Martinez, how long? 44. There you go. You see, so those are the examples that we have to glean from. And thank y'all guys for being here because y'all could probably host this better than us. So that was the reason why we didn't want to, or we struggled with doing this. But as we are now growing, and as we are now seeing the church grow, and we're seeing now the young couples and the couples that are thinking about getting married, or the couples that are not married, they're just dating, we thought, what a time to actually do this. And so we have Pastor Jose and Miss Sarah here. How long y'all been married for?
23.
Talking to the mic.
23.
23 years. Okay. So yeah. That's awesome, because when we met Sarah, we thought she was a single mom. We said, pobrecita. She's here by herself all the time. We said, man. And then Jose came around and he got saved, radically born again, and then now here he is, the associate pastor, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So this has been a long time coming. We are excited about this, and we're gonna hit this from. Excuse me. We're gonna hit this from a practical and a spiritual standpoint. So I hope y'all have notepads. I hope y'all have something to write down with. We are recording it, so we will not. We're not going to be live or anything like that. But we are recording this so that we can make little clips. And at any time, let me change that. Not at any time, but we are going to give y'all opportunities to ask questions. So don't ask them like in the middle of us making a point, but we will say, hey, is there any questions on any of that? So we're just going to talk about six things that we're really going to go over. And these, I feel, we got together, and I feel like this was the most pivotal and vital 6 things that you need in order to be in any type of relationship, and whether it be, like we said, if you're a friend, if you got friends in here, there's 3 types of ships, right? Friendship, courtship, and hardship. So whether or not you're dating anybody right now, whether or not you're in a relationship, or whether or not you're married, this is going to eventually need to be learned. So we figured might as well learn it here in church, right? Because a lot of people want to tell you, number one, don't ever, y'all can write this down, this is extra, this is before 1. Okay, this is pre-1. Don't ever take any type of marriage advice, relationship advice from people that are not in one. From friends, from people that have been in multiple relationships. Don't ever take any advice from them. If they're going to tell you what they did wrong, okay, but don't ever take, hey, you should do this. What? You are not even in a relationship. If you have kids, or you're married, or you're single, whatever it is, don't ever take relationship from advice from people that are, I don't want to say beneath thee, but beneath thee, okay? Because they're not at the level that you're in. So that's just number 1. But I want to open up with this scripture, Ephesians 3:17. It says, I'm going to read it to y'all through the New Living Translation just because it's easier to understand. So Ephesians 3:17 says, then Christ will make his home in your hearts as you trust in him. your roots will grow down into God's love and keep you strong. So this is basically talking about Christ making your home, his home in your heart. So, that's salvation and everything, but it talks about the roots being strong. And so when we go into any type of relationship, you want that relationship to be strong. Am I right? You want that foundation to be good. You want that ground to produce for you. And so Ephesians 3:17 talks about the number one relationship that you have to focus on is your relationship with Christ. So Christ is the center of everything. The Bible says that he is all in all. He is the focal point of everything that we do. It's Christ. So number one, in any relationship, this isn't number one. I got to stop saying that. Number two, okay? In any relationship, if whether it be a friendship, whether it be the relationship between your parents, whether it be a brother or sister, a sibling relationship, every relationship will always be better when it is centered or focused on Christ. No matter what, no matter any type of relationship. If you don't have Christ or that person don't have Christ, that relationship is not at its full potential. A relationship can only grow right when it is rooted in God's love, not just emotion. Okay? Not just attraction or not just inconvenience. This is where we're focusing on all type of relationships right now. If you are friends with somebody based on they benefit your lifestyle right now, that's not going to be a good relationship. If you're friends with somebody based, so like, say like me and Pastor Jose, like if all we had was a friendship based on what we can gain off of each other, then once there's nothing more to gain, that relationship ends. Right? So if it's not rooted in Christ or in God's love, then, well, he was there for me in my deepest time of need. Well, that was emotion. Well, he was there for me in this, like, some of them say, today's generation, we're not dating, we're just friends. That's not my boyfriend, we're just friends. Well, a lot of that is this friends with benefits stuff. They just don't want to label it. They don't want to be tied down. And so it's, well, you're friends, yeah, but you're all sleeping together, you're doing this and doing that. How is that a friend? I didn't sleep with my friends. And so that's based, well, we're attracted to each other, but we don't want to put a label on it. So that's attraction. Convenience. Well, it's just, it's really not, I'm not interested, but it's better than being alone. It's better than being by myself. So you have three things: emotion, attraction, and convenience. Those relationships won't last. Only relationships that are focused and centered with God and his love is going to last. I should have sent y'all these notes.
It's okay.
Okay.
I told you I need to take notes too.
Okay, so number one, where we're going to get started here, I'll let y'all see. This is what we're going to talk about. Number one. Now this is a number one. Okay. Every relationship should be a type of love triangle. There is a love triangle that needs to happen in a relationship. We think of this term as something negative, only because the world has defined what that love triangle looks like. But the Bible has a different definition of what this love triangle is. So this love triangle is something that's very important. It's a godly relationship is not just a husband and wife or a boyfriend and girlfriend or even a friend, any of that. There's got to be three people in that relationship. It's the two people that are trying to have a friendship, the two people that are trying to have a mentorship, whatever relationship you want. Those two people, but God has to be in that equation. And they both can't be looking at each other. So bringing it into dating, bringing it into marriage, bringing it into friendship, whatever it is, If they're just there looking at each other, then the relationship will never grow to its full potential because they're only looking at each other. And so the reason why we call this a love triangle is because you have to literally picture a triangle, okay? So most relationships are looking at each other. What is that? Horizontal, right?
Lateral.
Lateral, there you go. They're looking at each other laterally, okay? Well, that relationship will only work to a certain extent if you're just looking at each other. But when the two people stop looking at each other and they start looking up at God, then that's where the triangle comes into play. And we find this in Genesis 2:24, which we all have heard this. Genesis 2:24. It says, "This explains why a man leaves his father and mother and is joined to his wife, and the two are united into one." So you notice how it says united. I like that translation, which is why I'm reading the NLT. It doesn't say become one, but it says united into one. That's a better word right there. Because if they're not united and they just become one, then united, that word unity just brings it into a more better understanding. Because you can try to say you're one, but you're not united, you're not unified, then you're not. Well, we have each other. Yeah, but you're not united. Marriage is a covenant where two become one, but God must remain the foundation. In any relationship, God must remain the foundation. Okay, Ecclesiastes 4:12, write this down. This is what we're gonna, this is the main point, but everything goes off of this point. A person standing alone can be attacked and defeated, but two can stand back to back and conquer. Three are even better, for a triple braided cord is not easily broken. So you have a person standing alone can be attacked and defeated. Two can stand back to back. They can fight. They might win a couple of battles by themselves. But when you have a third, it's a bond that can't be broken. It's not easily broken. So the strongest relationships are not two people holding each other together. They're two people being held together by God. That is a great point to write down. The two strongest relationships are not two people holding each other together, but they are two people being held together by God. Okay? The triangle. So, as long as you're looking at the other person, you'll only go so far. The moment that the focus gets off the other person and not onto another person, hear me now. I'm not looking at my husband, I'm not looking at my wife, I'm not looking at my boyfriend, my girlfriend, I'm looking at my friend or anything like that. Just because you're not looking at them doesn't mean that you're looking at God. Because you could just be straight up ignoring them and be still focusing on yourself. But if you look at a triangle, and the reason why I say it's a triangle, because God has to be in the middle, and when both of y'all are looking up to Him, then you are only focused on your relationship with Him, and vice versa, right? So when you two are so focused on Christ and God, and so me and my wife, she's focused on Christ and all His commandments and all His words. I'm focused on Christ and all His commandments, all His words. If we focus on that and we both look at the one in the middle, then we will meet each other in Him. That is the love triangle that makes the relationship work. But if we're not focused on Him and we're just looking at each other, that relationship will only go so far. But if we focus on Christ and we're not worried about, well, look at what he did or look at what she did. No. God, show me what I'm doing wrong. God, teach me how to be better. Don't teach them, teach me. And if both of you are like that, then man, you will find each other in Him and everything else will get smoothed out. The problem is we're constantly looking at each other, pointing at each other, pointing fingers at each other, blaming each other. Well, if it wasn't for them, then we'd be better. No, why don't you go to Christ and go look in the mirror, the Word. Christ is the Word. The Word is if we beheld the Word, look at it as looking in a mirror, rightly, beholding the Son of God. And so we're focused on Him, then this will work. Does everybody understand? So that is the strongest, pivotal, foundational point in any relationship. You cannot be focused on one another more than you're focused, both of y'all focusing in God. Right? I think you wanted to say something there.
Yes. Notice how it's talking about three individuals, and it's the husband, the wife, or the friendship, and God. And I'm gonna speak from this from like a standpoint of having children. So when you have children, there's no mention of the children, right? It's the husband and the wife coming to God. And that's important because a lot of times, and I know, speaking from this, not understanding, it's not like not loving your children, not validating your children, but you have to have this strong in Christ first to be the parents that you need to be for your children. But it always has to be husband, wife. It's God, husband, wife, then children. And that's important. For those that don't have children, understand that mixed families,
Which is a really hard one.
It was difficult for me in the beginning because I didn't understand the importance, as I was growing and trying to be the godly wife that God had called me to be. I had no example of understanding, how his say so on my children, because they weren't, he wasn't the father, and I had to learn that it had to be us and then the children, and because that dynamic is so important. This has to be strong. That's going to make the marriage successful. And I do also want to say, again, I didn't have an example. We didn't have an example of having a godly relationship, godly marriage. So when we first got together, he was my everything. I don't want to say he was my God, but I didn't understand that I needed to go to God first to be the wife that I needed to be for my husband. I had no example. I had no understanding. I didn't know how to love according to the Bible, whenever I was, trying to do things the right way, the godly way, it really opened my eyes to understand he is his own, I am my own, and we come together at the top when we put God first. And it solved so many problems. So many. And I'm learning along the way.
One of the biggest things that I'm pretty sure a lot of all the marriages in here have y'all had mixed families. Am I right? Right? Okay, so y'all understand that too, right? That is a hard thing when you have a kid and you're coming into a relationship with a kid and you've been so focused on the kid, and then you're like, what do you mean? No, it's me and my kid. Mr. Martin, how many of those kids live with y'all still? None.
Praise the Lord.
Brother Gene and Lori, how many of them kids? Well, I mean, figuratively, yeah. Yeah, but they all left the house, right? They all, well, yeah, you too, but they all eventually leave, right? The point I'm making is that you cannot put your kid over your husband or wife because they are going to leave you. The husband and wife are not if it's a godly relationship. So the problem is that when you first get in that relationship, you're like, my kid, this is my baby. Like, no, this is mine. I'll leave you. Forgetting that they're going to leave you eventually. Why mess up? That's why God leaves the kids out of that. We weren't supposed to have kids out of other marriages and stuff, but so be it. It happens. But he would have thought of that. He would have said, no, you put your kids in the relationship. No, because he says it right in the beginning. This is the reason why you leave your mother and father. The kids will leave. So don't get so caught up in putting your kids over your spouse, putting your kids over your marriage, because the marriage is supposed to last. The kids will leave. They'll always be your kids. But I was telling somebody this, when they leave, somebody called me yesterday. They don't even come here. They went to the church for 2 months and called me and was asking me for marital counseling. They moved to Chicago. And I said, hey, your mom, your dad, that's your mom and dad. Don't let them talk to your wife like that, because that's your wife. You left your mom and dad. Well, we're supposed to honor, yes, you love them, you do this, you do that, but they should be praying for you, not talking about, how bad your wife is in this, and that she's not even bad. They just wouldn't have chose her for him. I was like, no, they should be praying for him, praying for you, praying for her. Like, once y'all got married, they no longer have a say in your relationship. Why? Because now the two have become one. You have exited out that family. You could even talk about that for a minute, Jose. You know what I'm talking about. Go ahead.
Yeah.
It's on.
Well, one of the main things, and I've mentioned this with the young couples that came over to our house, is that there's a reason why that the lady changes her last name, because she's being brought into a new family, right? And so I find it so amazing in Scripture and the way it works, because now she's leaving her old family, changing her name, and now she's having a new family. And so just like everything else, they have to get accustomed to the way things are being done with this family, right? And so you have to learn like new traditions and new ways of living, or a certain manner of living. Not to say that you can't add some of your stuff in there as well, but the thing is that you're coming into another family. And so the way I see it is because Christ calls the church his bride. And so we have to take on his name as well. So we don't get to keep our name in the relationship with Christ. We take on his name as the bride. And so then I have to come into his family and learn the way God does things in his family. So I'm learning a different way because I'm taking on his name. It's the exact same thing as a marriage. The woman's changing her last name and coming into a family and has to learn, how things are done, in a certain manner, because I always bring it to my sister. They were having not issues, but some conversations, and I had to tell my brother-in-law, she's not a Martinez anymore. She's a Rivas. She has to learn how your family does things. Yeah, she could take some good things from us, but she's a Rivas at the end of the day, and so that's one important thing that we all have to do it. Whether the men, we don't get a pass at it. We take on Christ's name, and we have to learn, how God says a husband in a marriage is supposed to be, and we have to learn. I was raised a little bit different. I'm a traditional Mexican, so I had to unlearn a lot of the things, that I was raised with.
It's a great point. One of the hardest things too is that the mom, the wife, they don't even know that they do it sometimes. Speaking out of experience and what I see, they don't even know that they're taking the child's side a lot of the times, because they're in such mama mode. We're going to, no, you're not going to tell my baby nothing. Whoop that. But no, I'm just playing. But they're not going to, yes, go ahead.
Even if it's not a mixed family, I would be home with the kids all day. They'd be making me mad. I'd be calling him at work, complaining. And then by the time he gets home, I'm over it, and he starts yelling. I'm like, why are you yelling at him? And I'm like, I told him.
You riled him up.
He was thinking about it all day. Yeah. And so, yeah, us as moms, we don't realize that we're doing that, or putting the kids first above our husbands. Mm-hmm. And it is hard when they're babies and they're little, because that's all you're focused on is them. But you have to really step back and check yourself for what you're doing.
Yeah, that's true. That's one of the things that when we counsel a lot of people, that's one of the things that we see is that the mom doesn't know that they're actually doing that. And then when you tell them, they get mad at us. It was like, hey, we're just pointing it out, like, but we all have to like learn how to do all these things because like I'm telling you, eventually they are going to leave you. And what is supposed to be lasting is that covenant, because marriage and is a covenant before God. It's supposed to be till death do you part, or till you kill one another. But it's supposed to be, I'm just trying to make y'all laugh. Y'all look serious. So y'all look like you already know all this stuff. So I'm just trying to throw some stuff in there. But that's the covenant that's supposed to last. The mom, the son, the mama's boy, the daddy's girl, that will change. Trust me. We had like girls. We have 4 girls, and I'm holding on to Lily because she's like, Dad, like she like adores me, and I'm like, oh, don't grow old. And she said, I don't want to get bigger, Dad. I was like, why? My shirt's not gonna fit me. I said, we'll get you a new one. Y'all don't want a new one. So I'm like, that's my baby, right? She comes. Adeline doesn't do that no more. The older ones doesn't do that. So we're just trying to hold on to that. But they grow up, and they're not gonna be like that no more. So you have to make sure, keep the main thing, and that's your relationship with the Lord, and then He will teach you how to have a relationship with one another. Did anybody got any questions on point number 1? Yes, ma'am.
Could you elaborate a little bit on the honoring the parents and where do you draw the line? And then nowadays there's a lot of married couples that the female, the wife, does not drop her last name, but keeps it hyphenated.
Mm-hmm.
What are your comments on something?
That's a good question. So that's actually what that guy asked me too. Well, what do you mean? Like, then how do I honor them? I said, look, you're honoring them by loving them. You're honoring them by talking with them, checking on them and everything. But I think that you're like, the level of honor, once you separate the family, that level of honor is not as high as it was when you were underneath that family. Because you're always going to honor those that are above you, right? So I told him, I said, you have separated from that family. I said, now you honor and you love them from a distance. You don't do it to where they're still ruling over you, because now you have somebody to protect, somebody to be the priest and the king of your home, and now they have to do that with you. So it's just a perpetual cycle, right? So you're honoring them, checking on them, just normal stuff, honoring them, checking on them. But with me and Patty, like we didn't have good examples of anything, and so it was difficult for them to see the relationship that we have. And like, well, I'm still your mom. Yeah, you're still my mom, but you don't live with me. And I don't live with you. You don't pay my bills. You don't do any of that stuff, right? I've been paying my bills since I was 13, mama. Old trauma. Let me come back. But they still want to be held in that place, and it's like, yeah, we're gonna hold you to it, but not over my wife. Not over. She's not going to hold her mom or her dad. Well, then again, we didn't have good examples of a dad, just a dad, period. Not even a husband, like, what to be a husband. But you're not going to hold that over that. So we're honoring them by checking on them, by loving on them and everything, but we're not going to place them over the new covenant that we have made with our spouse. Okay, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, but honoring is something from the heart, and that's the part where it's not necessarily like dishonoring them if you're not agreeing with their approach on something, but the honor comes where I listened and I heard, and I consider, and then I make my decision. Dishonor would become, it's like, you don't know what you're talking about, or like, that didn't work for you, or like, hey, what do you know? Like calling them out on certain things. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because like I said, this is just life and what we're doing, and we're all trying to figure things out. Different generations, the older generation, they didn't have a lot of compassion, I guess, for like tiptoeing and walking on eggshells to approach a situation. They said it flat out, hey, you're like this, or you're doing this. And then we have another generation. It's like we're, like we got to beat around the bush and say things indirectly. So it's just really like, honor comes from the heart and the approach, right? If I'm dishonoring them, are they leaving and mad at me, or they are thinking that I think that they're a failure in everything they do? Or if I'm honoring them, thank you for it. I was asking, for help or advice, and I'm going to consider that and thank you. And that's, to me, that those are certain ways that you're able to honor your parents.
Yeah, and they might get mad if you don't take their advice. They say, hey, I considered it. I honored you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, I didn't have a good example of how to be a wife growing up, and then we moved here to Texas, and we were so blessed with my in-laws. We had them as an example, and I would always go to them, for advice or just complaining to them when I was younger. But so I started seeing what the example of a wife was. But not till I was 18. So it took us a long time, and they would flat out tell us, you guys are being stupid. Now go back home, make it work.
Yeah. To be fair, I was the one at the like a family event, and all the women are making their husband's food, and my wife's sitting down eating hers, and I don't have nothing to eat.
That's the one thing I had to learn. That's why I didn't have a good example. I got my food, and then my mother was like, "Yeah, honey, you want some food?" I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna go get food." Yeah, but so she taught me.
Any other questions on point number 1? Does that make sense? The whole, triangle? Yes. I'm sorry, Isaac was in the way. I didn't see it. Okay.
She always starts off.
Let's say there's no boundaries per se being laid with the parents to like honor the spouse. Do you just continue to just like bear with it and discuss those boundaries not being set with your spouse, or do you eventually handle your own?
Can I handle that? Whenever you
That
get
is a
chance.
good question, and that's actually going to go into one of the later points, but we can go ahead
Yeah.
and
So we had a similar situation like that. And so the best way to combat anything like that is, people have to understand where their lines are drawn and once it's crossed. So once you let your parents or, your in-laws, letting them know like, hey, this line has been crossed. Now you're on the opposite side of where me and my wife are on. And now we're one unit united against what you're trying to say. Right? That's where the division happens, or the line needs to be laid. And then they will make their decision based off of knowing that they can't separate us two. And so, and if that's the part where like, hey, I'm staying away from you, because honestly, I think what it boils down to for parents is that they have to deal with the reality of that they're not number one, or that there's somebody they're not needed for them anymore.
Especially
and someone
moms.
else is taking the place. And so honestly, it comes from an insecurity of that you're going to be left alone. And so, I think that's where it stems from. But we had a similar incident where Sarah's mom was literally trying to drive a wedge between us. And for reasons unknown, but there was one time in there where she like literally disrespected me inside my house. And telling me how bad of a husband I am and how bad of a father I am. And I let her say everything that she said, and I kept my mouth shut. And then my wife walked in and said, you are not going to talk to my husband like that in his own house. If you can't, then you need to leave right now. And as soon as she did that, and mindful, she's from California and she didn't know anywhere here in Texas. Sarah, if you can't handle that, then you can't stay here. And she literally left. Just like that. Sarah didn't chase her. Sarah didn't say, please stop. The line was drawn. She saw it. Never once has she tried to come between us again.
And that's the part where you got to remember it's you, your spouse, and God. There ain't no kids, there ain't no parents, there ain't nothing. And that it needs to be established right away, which is why we started with that with the first point. Because there's only 3 of y'all. Ain't 4, 5, 6. Ain't step parents, my parents. So this is it. No, it's just y'all 3. And if you can't get that, then your marriage is not going to be that great. If you can establish that from the beginning, then you will have a better successful, happier marriage because you're not worried about what other people on the outside are trying to say, looking in, because they're on the outside. They don't know. They don't know anything. They don't know the deep conversations. They don't know this. They don't know that. And it's not like, well, those are my parents. Yeah, those are your parents, but they're not in this relationship. They're not in this relationship. You left their house, you cut them off, you boom. That's just what it is, you know. And that is the heart. Like I like with Melanie, our oldest one. You know, I said, hey man, I told her fiance, once she's a Garza, like everything changes. You know, like it all changes. We're not gonna say nothing. Like you have to determine how you're gonna run your household. And once May 30th, what is it, May 30th is just next weekend. Once that happens, man, you better lay the smack down because she runs all over you.
At the last barbecue, he was trying to.
At the last barbecue, he
trying
stepped up. We've been rubbing off on him. Yeah.
He said something and stood up for himself, and then all the guys were like, oh, yeah. It started to hype us up.
And then when she left, he's like, what did I do? I was like, bro, you just wait till you go home.
Yeah.
He's strong right now. But yeah, there is nobody, you know, it all changes. Once you got the last name and everything, it all changes. So number 2, we're gonna move on to number 2, dating and pursuing. Once you have a relationship that's been around for a little while, it seems like this goes out the window. I don't know why. So this is very important. You never stop pursuing your spouse. And this is also like really heavy on the guys. Okay, this is more guys than the girls. And so I teach this to the guys that I mentor and everything. Like, never stop pursuing your spouse. Dating should not end after the wedding. Oh, I locked her up. She's stuck with me now. I'm just gonna gain 100 pounds and I'm just gonna do this and she ain't gonna leave me. That should not be the mentality. Now, if you gain 100 pounds together, then that's fine. Okay. But one just goes and just lets it, you know, whatever it is, and like, I already got her. I don't need to worry about that. And you're gonna find differing opinions, but in this house, we really focus about pursuing your spouse. I forgot who it was. It might have been, I don't know if it was Israel or Jennifer or something like that. But when they realized like how much we went out, they're like, dang, y'all go out all the time. Like, yeah, we go on dates all the time. Not as much now, but we try to date all the time, as much as we can. And so that is one of the things that we really emphasize, because if you're not pursuing one another, then you lose the fire, you lose everything. I know we have people who have been through marriages and are not married right now, and I know we have people that are starting to pursue one another and looking at that, but and people that have had failed marriages. And I know I'm not going to do a show of hands, but talking with people that have had failed marriages, a lot of it started because they weren't doing what they were doing in the beginning before they got married. Oh, it was good in the beginning. Well, why did it stop being good? Why does it stop? Like, why does it have to be like that? Well, we have kids and everything. Yeah, you got kids, but those kids grow up. Those kids are not babies for all the time. We encourage all the people that have babies, you know, hey, y'all still got to go out. You still got to, they're going to be fine. That's the number one thing about when moms have babies. Oh, I can't leave my baby with nobody. No, it's mine. No, you're forgetting the important thing is you and your spouse. So pursuit communicates value. Man, I ran down the street in 120-degree weather for this chick. It was 1.5 miles. She don't believe me. She thought I had my sister drop me off around the corner and just throw water on my face. But no, I ran. It was hot. I did whatever I can. Backstory, she left me. And I was being a knucklehead. She left me. And I said, oh, girl, you done made a mistake. If I can't have you, no one can. And so I'm gonna make you want me back. And I would run. I was like, she's like, what are you doing here? Oh, I was just down the corner. See, I lived on Airline and she lived on Staples. So I would literally, I remember one of my customers said, man, I thought I saw you running down Holly. I was like, what were you doing? I was running to go get that chick over there. Like, that's crazy. I was like, man, you were sweating. I said, it was 110 degrees outside. But I did it, right? Because I was pursuing her. And in our first couple of months and everything, I was a knucklehead. I got her, and then I stopped doing what I was doing to get her. And then so when she said, you know what, I don't want to have nothing to do with you, then it hit me. I was like, dang, I think I love this woman. And so I was like, you know what, I'm going to go. It was only a couple of months. I mean, you can't know you love somebody in a couple of months. Mic drop right there. Unless you're the older generation. Y'all were smarter than us. Okay, but today's generation, they be up and down, up and down, up and down. They think they love one thing, one moment, and the next thing they can't stand it. But after a couple of months, I said, man, I think I love this girl. So I went and chased her and pursued her. When is the last time you actually, like, for those of y'all who are married, you got to ask yourself, when was the last time you actually pursued your spouse? When was the last time you actually planned something just to bless them? You know, when is the last time that, and when you pursue them, when I was pursuing her, I found out what she liked. I found out what made her happy. I found out her dislikes. I found out what type of food. Do you know that we change? I think, what is this, the statistics, like every, 10 years or something? You change. And so that's just statistically speaking, like every 10 years, like what you like and stuff like that changes. So you're like, oh, I thought you liked that. Yeah, 10 years ago. You stopped pursuing. You stopped going after them. You stopped chasing them. I was like, Israel, is it okay if I tell on you? Okay, good. I was like, you're ready, go ahead. I'm not saying this about you, I'm saying this about your friend. Okay. I remember when we came back down and we went to the Believers Convention, and he was like, man, I think I want to start dressing up. I was like, why don't you dress up, man? I said, Jennifer's over there looking all nice, and you're in Crocs and everything all the time. And I said, man, I bet you would shock her if you just come all like, all GQ'd out and everything. I said, I bet you'd probably have another baby. And look at that. He started dressing up and they got another baby.
Come on.
I said, maybe you might want to dress down again. Because, she's all like, Mortal Kombat, get over here. Just saw him and it was on. But, I said, that's... Cue the music. Let's get it on. But unless you were like that in the very beginning and that attracted them, then I'm okay, fine, whatever. This is just kind of weird. But if you're like that and you're just like, yeah, I just look like I woke up, and I was like, oh my God, you look amazing. If your wife is like that, then okay, keep looking like you just woke up. But if you look better before and you just let yourself go, that's just like to me, that's just like unfair, right? Because you have the mentality, well, they can't leave anyway, and I'll just look like whatever. Like, if you are pursuing your spouse, then you want to look good for them. You want to look great for them, and you want to, and it's not like physical, or whatever. I got a thyroid condition, and then like Chris Tucker was, stop eating thyroids. Remember? Trying to make y'all laugh. Rush Hour, remember? He was like, dang, what's wrong with you? I got a thyroid condition. Well, stop eating thyroids. So, but you have to have that type of pursuit, okay? And so that really is it's really a heart check. Yeah. It's like, man, does this person still take my breath away? Does this person still have my full attention. And if they do, then it's great. But if you don't, then like, okay, then what am I doing? Right? And some people will argue that, well, no, I'm gonna love no matter what you look like till you're old and bald and gray. Well, some of us are looking like that prematurely, okay? You don't need to look. Why are you calling? He is not gray.
I'm gray, he's bald.
But you aren't old.
Sorry, not old.
Can I add something to
Yeah,
that,
go
to
ahead.
like that pursuing portion? I don't know why, I just thought of Coyote Ugly and the Roadrunner. You know, the coyote never catches the roadrunner, but it's entertaining for us and we always turned it on to watch. So there's something that's exciting about somebody pursuing something. So if you pursue your spouse, and this is for the ladies as well too, because a lot of times, speaking, like, women forget, that, hey, they're supposed to help to initiate as well too, but having that part in there, like, it's what keeps it young and what keeps it alive, And so I remember a time in our marriage where I didn't pursue my wife. And you know how that looked like? When we were out to dinner, it was kind of awkward and we didn't really know how to talk because I wasn't pursuing her. But, now over the years has changed. I'm more in love with my wife now than I was in my, in my early 20s and stuff. But, now conversations, like now it's like, there's not one place or not one person I'd rather share my life with and to, hey, this is what's going on, or hey, there's not a stagnant, area as far as like when we're at dinner together and like we're like two strangers that don't know how to talk to each other. But it happened like that because I wasn't pursuing my wife, and like I said, it keeps the blood flowing and it keeps you young, I commended my father. I'm like, and my mom, and I was telling them the other day, I was like, man, you're always taking mama out. You take her to the movies, you're taking her out to eat, you're always taking her dancing. I'm like, man, like, you have showed me a good example of how to date your spouse, in the later age, right? But if the pursuing doesn't happen, right, and these and couples stay married for quite some time, say 20 years, 30 years, and then they're getting a divorce, the reason why they're getting a divorce is because after the kids left, they have to figure out if they like each other. And sometimes they weren't pursuing the whole time. And so then they find out, like, we have nothing in common and like it's better to go our separate ways. And so, like, because that's always the question, how can they be married for 30 years and say that they're going to call it quits, and I'm talking about like just mutually separating, but it's because along the lines, the pursuing each other stopped, the fire went out. And then when the kids are gone, because it's easy to do life together when it's busy, we got to pick up the kids, take them there and this and that. Yeah. And so that's a normal way of life. But then when they're gone, they have no identity in their marriage because their identity was with their children, so.
Right. That's very good. That's very good. I did want to say, like, if you're asking, like, or not asking, but if you're in a situation to where like you start seeing your spouse as your enemy per se, because y'all are, just bumping heads consistently, and there's a lot going on, that for me, that's like a red flag. Like, I need to go spend time with him to make sure, that we get rid of everything else and stay connected. And when we do, it's just so much more refreshing. I'm like, I do love him. Nobody can love that. No, but it's so important because we have the kids, and then of course if you're working, you have work, right? And then we have church, and there's just so much going on.
And then
to each other.
we have the kids.
There's a lot, It even got to a point to like when we're going out and we're having a date, like we were talking so much about church that it was like, it's not that it's a bad thing, because it was all good things, like just success in people's lives and seeing changes and just all good stuff. But I started bringing like questions to ask, to like just random things, like what's your favorite, movie, or your favorite food, and I was looking up questions to ask, so we can stay connected and keep that fire going, because if not, the enemy wants to sever. He wants to, bring a wedge. He wants you to think that your spouse is your enemy and he doesn't understand you, or she doesn't understand me, and so it's important that when you're doing those things that you are pursuing and continuously trying to get to know each other. Because like you said, we change. I'm not the same person I was 20 years ago, and he isn't either.
I was gonna say something. I forgot what you. One of the things too is we have to intentionally do that. It's because you can't find more opposites than me and her. We are opposite. She's like, "What's your favorite movie?" Yeah, let me tell you, because you don't like to go to the movies. So let me tell you, I love to go to the movies. This one didn't. Take that out of the dating options because you don't like to go to the movies. So, I'm a sports person. She doesn't really like a whole lot. I can sit there and watch basketball. So we have to purposely pursue in like creative ways. And so what is like Leah, you were talking when we were here today, what you said? You said you were doing something I thought was pretty cool. You were reading.
Oh, I was reading Power of Praying Wife.
That's a good book.
And what did you say that you were learning?
Oh, okay, yes. I was like, what was I doing? In the Power of Praying Wife, it was talking about how a husband, and my husband's not necessarily like this, but I want to be a good wife. I strive to be a good wife, a good godly wife, so that a husband who works all day wants to come home, and if, let's say, for example, if he wants a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, if I know that's what he likes, I want to make sure there's always peanut butter, always jelly, and always bread. And if once we run out, I don't need to inform him that I'm going to restock, but I want to restock so next time he goes in, there's peanut butter, there's jelly, and there's bread. Just that there's no lack as a good as a good wife, to be there and provide as well for my husband. So that's what I was talking about earlier.
Yeah, and that's pursuing in its own way. You're pursuing to be not only a better wife, but you're pursuing to make him even happier in the small things. He likes food. Yeah. Does anybody have anything they wanna? Yes.
Would you say that, for example, you were saying one person doesn't like this, but the other one does, and I just heard what Leah was saying. Would you say that possibly that person, one or the other, should maybe accommodate at times or learn to?
Yes.
Like what she was saying.
Yes.
I don't like peanut butter and jelly, but because he likes it,
Yeah.
because he likes basketball, maybe
Yes.
we want to endure
Yes.
a little,
Yes. We
because
do.
in
I
Christ,
do. Yeah.
in Christ, we do,
Yeah.
right?
Yes. That's
In
good.
Christ, we endure. If he wants us to do, to carry the cross, it's kind of.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a
Yes.
good point.
Yes.
That is great because she has endured basketball. She has endured stuff that she don't like. Unless it's a chick flick, she don't want to watch it. So I had to take her go wear the devil. We can't say that in church. The angel wears Prada. And so no, I liked it. I was like, man, we haven't been in the movies in years. This is awesome. And I was there watching the chick flick with her.
The reason, I like to watch movies, and I'll go watch movies, whatever. But because we have so little time together, when we go to movies, I don't get to talk to him. So it's like we're watching TV. That's not connection to me. I know that he likes to, being there, we'll watch a movie, but when we have time, which is very, very rare, it's like I want to go and be with him and in like us laugh. We have different humor. So when he makes me laugh, I laugh just to make him feel good. I'm just kidding. No, I love when he.
And she laughs at the stupidest things.
Yeah, so it's like I love that when he's making me laugh. I'm laughing because he's so cute. But wait, yeah.
I'm like, everyone thinks I'm funny, but you, woman. Who had their hand up? Okay.
Oh no, I was just gonna say we went on a date and y'all were at the same place on a date.
Oh yeah.
You heard someone laughing
But that was a real laugh. He wasn't faking that one. Yeah, and then we ended up double dating. We let y'all have y'all's time. Okay, now let's have time together. I don't know what we're gonna say.
So, Pastor Jose, you were talking about how there was that season in time where you weren't pursuing Sarah. And prefacing this by saying this is not what's happening in our marriage, but from the standpoint of because of the fact that this does happen, and whether it's a new marriage or people who've been married for a long time, sometimes maybe in one person or even in both that pursuit goes away, or life happens and we don't find the time to pursue each other the way that we should be. But what is some advice that you can give if that pursuit does feel like it's one-sided? Like whether it's the husband always pursuing the wife and the wife not reciprocating, or the wife always pursuing and the husband being distant and cold. Like what is that? What is their advice that you can offer that where they can recapture that pursuit together?
So in the only advice that I could say to that is that it's important what we led off with this in the very beginning, is that you have to have godly examples. You have to have people in your life that represent a marriage, the way it's supposed to be intended. And then you need to get around those people, confide in someone who you trust, and say something like me. I've been telling Sarah right now, you need to go around and start encouraging all these young women, and not, since we're talking to you, I'm going to go ahead and put you guys on the spot. I saw Leah during service one time, and then, we were all paying attention to the word. And I just saw Leah out of nowhere, just started rubbing Noah's back, and that means a lot, right? And it has nothing to do that it's touch. It has everything to do with security, and so those are little things, that I pick up and I notice, the small little details of like people's relationships. And so I told my wife, I said, when you see that, encourage the women, hey, you're doing a great job. But at the same time, back in the day, older women passed down the wisdom, and what they had. And so many times, I believe that there's a lot of older women that want to pass down that wisdom, but there's a lot of young women that don't want it. They rather take it from Instagram and Facebook, and somebody who has the appearance of a great marriage, showing all the beautiful pictures and all the stuff that they're doing, but yet it's only surface level. Yeah. So again, it's important to have a strong community of people that you could go to and say, hey, like I'm having trouble, do you think, your wife could, somehow talk to my wife without feeling that like we're putting her on the spot or attacking her, so to speak. So, it's a lot of the time is communication and the people that you have in your corner, and then I'm going to leave you with this in Revelations chapter 3. It says God stressed his people that said, you left your first love. Yeah. Remember your first love and do those works again. And so you always have to go back of like, what did I fall in love with this person? Why did I want to spend so much time together? What was different? And then God says, do those things again. Mm-hmm. So you go back to the beginning. And whatever you were doing then you have to start doing it again.
Yeah. Second Song of Solomon. Okay, hold on. Song of Solomon 2:10 says this. My lover said to me, rise up, my darling, come away with me, my fair one. So that's actually like you're going somewhere, right? Come with me. I want you to come with me. We're going to go somewhere. That's a pursuit. Proverbs 5:18 says this, and a lot of us know this in the King James Version, but the NLT version says this. Proverbs 5:18, let your wife be a fountain of blessing for you. Rejoice in the wife of your youth. And it's talking about the wife of your youth. It's talking about not just the one that you got married to when you were young, but that stage when y'all were young together and how you rejoiced in that and how y'all were happy and how you pursued one another and how y'all went after each other and stuff. So those are two good scriptures that can back up the point that we're trying to make here. Yes, sir.
Now, I was going to say about the pursuing part. It happens. 44 years. And the wife cannot be, or the spouse cannot be shy about letting somebody know you feel neglected. Because
yes.
I know one time we were like going through the motions, baseball season going on and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like, I feel like I'm living with my brother.
That
Cold water in your face.
Dang,
Yeah.
that's a good
that's
point.
that's yeah. That's one of my hold that. We're gonna get there. Yeah, hold that. We're gonna get there. That's one of my other points. Y'all jumping ahead of us. Okay. So number 3, we're talking about intimacy, but intimacy is not just sex. Okay. So we think this is intimacy. We hear the word intimate. We're talking about sex, but intimacy is not just sex. It's closeness. It's being vulnerable. It's having trust. It's building a friendship like Jose and Sarah. And I'm going to be honest with y'all guys. This is just me being honest. There was a time where Patty would get mad and she'd be like, "You're not my best friend. Like you're my best friend, but I'm not your best friend." She would tell me that all the time. And I was like, "Girl, what you talking about? You're my best friend." I was like, and I had to think about it. And I was like, "You're not. Jose is." Nah. And so I had to.
I need some of that right there.
Sarah said, "I know if he doesn't answer my phone call, he's talking to you." So I like, because he'll drop what he's doing, answer my call, except for when it comes to you. But no, but I had to come to that reality. Like, man, you know what? You're right. You're not my best friend. You're one of them, but you're not the best friend. You know. And so I had to really do some soul searching and stuff, and my and that's what I was going to talk about. People have different love languages because somebody says like, what if they don't like this, and you have to learn what each other loves, and you do have to sacrifice. You do have to So I tell this woman all the time, "You're beautiful." When she wakes up, boogers in her eyes and everything. "Girl, you're beautiful." "Tell me again." And I'm like, and that's my love language, I guess, is like I'm constantly telling her this and constantly telling her that. And she's not very affectionate when it comes to like touching or anything like that. I'm like, rubbing her and all this stuff, touching her, and she didn't like that, And so I had to learn that. She had to learn that. And she's, "No, girl, you gonna let me touch it. I don't care if you don't like it. I like it."
Time out.
And so-
Who's big spoon, little spoon?
We don't want to get into that. Let's keep it Christian. So we had to learn that, right? We had to learn that, and so intimacy is more than just being physical with people or being physical with your spouse or being physical. Like that's not intimacy. That can be the result. I would think that's actually a result of intimacy is a physical thing first, but the world will teach you that comes first and then intimacy comes. No, it should actually be the result of true intimacy. Then the physical and the sexual part comes in. If you're married, we got to say, I was talking to my pastor friends and he was like, "Yeah," he was like, he goes, "Man, I was praying." He said, "The Lord, I see the baby booming coming out of here." He goes, "Man, all them fools started having children out of wedlock." I was like, "Dang." He goes, "I should have been more specific." I was like, "Man, it's a Robstown, those people." Anyway. And he goes, "Man, I had to tell them. I got mad at all of them. They all started having babies out of wedlock." I was like, "You got to be more specific about that. This generation doesn't see that as a problem, right?" And so you have to understand, intimacy, sex is nothing now to this generation. It's nothing. It's just, let's just do it. Whoever, whenever, with multiple people, whatever. It's nothing special anymore. I thought my generation was bad when I grew up. Now, today, it's they don't even know that, that word was canceled, virgin. That word was canceled, And they just, sleep around all the time, because they don't know what intimacy is. And if you can learn that intimacy is more than sex, it's an emotional connection, then that'll come, and that'll be even better when you have the true intimacy of what the Bible designs for it to be. And so, but there is also, so Genesis 2:25, check this out. It says now, in the NLT, it says, "Now the man and his wife were both naked, but they felt no shame." So that's intimate right there. And the intimate part of the Bible right there. that they were naked, but it wasn't just talking about physical nakedness. See, our mind goes to physical nakedness, but that they were spiritually naked, that means they knew each other frontwards and backwards. They knew what bothered them. They knew all these things, and they knew their downfalls. You know, they know what irritates them. They know all the good, all the bad, all the ugly, but still they were not ashamed in each other's presence. That's what happens when true intimacy is taking place. When, hey, I got a problem with this, or like, say like, for instance, like so we're all adults here. Like, say your spouse has a problem with porn, and you know it happens. It goes right. That's a big thing, especially in marriage. That was a big thing with us, and so you have the choice. You're gonna be disgusted, mad, or pissed off about it, or are you gonna be like, hey, like I understand. I'm gonna pray for you. Let's work through this. Like, no, or are you gonna be disgusted? Well, if I'm having a problem as the man and and you're my spouse, and I know that if I tell you this, your response is gonna be, you're gonna get pissed off. You're gonna look at me. Why would I tell you that then? I'd much rather hide it than to feel the shame. I already feel shameful about it. And you're just gonna make me feel I'd rather just feel shameful by myself. That's when you know that you're lacking in that intimacy. When we say, hey, I can see all your flaws, all your mistakes. Yeah, I'm disappointed, but I don't hate you. Like I love you. Let's work together through this. And that's when you're like, oh man, that's what the Bible's talking about, that they saw their nakedness. But it speaks not only their physical nakedness, but emotional safety, being fully known and still loved. And what does the Bible say? That it's the goodness of Christ that brings men to repentance. It's the love that brings the repentance. It's not the wife nagging or the husband nagging and constantly pointing out the wrong and the fault, but it's the love that you're showing one another that's going to cause the repentance to happen. Yes.
Wives, you do have to stand in the gap for your husband when he, like in that instance, you know, when you know he is doing something he's not supposed to. You have to stand in the gap and just cover him with prayer in your closet, in your prayer closet. You cover him in prayer.
That's where we're going to
and,
go with the last one.
You know, it can be hard because we get upset, but you have to go to God with that. Just like in the beginning, they were saying they thought I was a single mom. He didn't want nothing to do with church for a while. And at the time, being in my early 20s, I didn't even know that's what I was doing, standing in the gap for him, continuing every weekend being at church, even though he didn't want to. And there was a time I was mad at God because I'm like, I'm doing all this stuff and nothing is changing. But in the moment, you don't see it, but your prayers are changing the atmosphere. They're changing the situation. They're changing your husband. And so it's very important for wives to stand in the gap for their husband and be that prayer warrior for them. And they don't even have to know you're doing that. Yes. But God knows and he hears and he's changing things.
Yeah. So then we talked about that intimacy not being sexual, but then there is a point of sexual intimacy. And so Paul says this in 1 Corinthians chapter 7. It says the husband should fulfill his wife's sexual needs and the wife should fulfill her husband's needs. Do not deprive each other of sexual relations. And then he talks about don't do that unless for fasting and for prayer. So like the women, those of y'all who are married in here, okay? That doesn't mean you use that as a weapon against your husband. Oh, you ain't getting none. No. That's manipulation, okay? Same thing with Israel. Quit holding it back from Jennifer. No. I know you be using it as a weapon. No. But the men sometimes do. I was only using it as an example because the men can do that too. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's like vice versa. So, you don't hold that as a weapon. And he says, Paul says in another translation, because your body's not your own. Like you're there, y'all belong to each other, so you should be willingly doing that. Did I see a hand raised? Oh yes. 1 Corinthians 7, 3. That whole chapter talks about that, actually. Yeah, you read the whole chapter. Sex should not be used as punishment, control, manipulation. In marriage intimacy as a gift, not a weapon. So, okay, so we go over that. So, okay, we're going to go over real quick because we're running out of time. So, first is the love triangle. Number one is the love triangle. And I want to also say that too because we'd be remiss. We're not saying neglect your kids, okay? We've seen that too, where they're just so in love with the new spouse and everything, and they just kick their kids to the wayside. And they're like, I don't care, you figure it out. And they go. She had that happen when she was younger. Like the mom, like literally would like go on vacation, and like she was only like in 5th grade and raising her brothers, and like there was no parent around. So that's the bad example of it. There's a balance with everything. There's a balance with God. Okay, so you have to have a balance. We've seen new spouses and everything just leave out of state, leave their kids with the ex. So smitten by them, it's like, dang, they wonder why your kids are the way they are. You left them, So there's a balance there. Then they end up hating the parents, hating the step parents, hating all of that, and it's just like, well, I gotta go on with my life. Yeah, well, they're little. They're not gonna understand that. So we're not saying just go and leave them right away. So there has to be a balance. Number 2 is dating and pursuing. Number 3 is intimacy. And number 4, it's the big F word, finances. This is the number one thing that a lot of marriages, I saw this actually destroy a marriage was finances. In today's culture, doing a lot of marriage counseling, it is bizarre and absolutely crazy how many marriages have separate bank accounts. It's crazy. I just don't understand that, but that's today's culture. So finances, money reveals trust, priorities, and stewardship. A lot of today's generation, they don't have same bank accounts because they don't trust their spouse. They're not one, literally. This is a for now until something better comes, or this is because I settled until something else comes, or I don't trust you. Because your relationship wasn't built on the love triangle. To me, that's the only reason why you'd probably have separate bank accounts, because y'all didn't form the relationship right. And so, I make more money than them. Well, yeah, you knew they were broke when you got together. Well, he's not good with money. That should have been something you took into consideration before you got with them. Jesus said, where your treasure is, there your heart is also. So if they're not good with money and they just think that, they don't consider it valuable, well, then they're not going to consider a lot of things valuable. Because they're just going to think, then they're not going to consider relationships valuable. Because that is showing where their heart is. And so this generation, they all have separate bank accounts. Amos 3:3, the reason why they have separate bank accounts is because they're not in agreement. Can two walk together except they be agreed? In marriage, finances should not be mine versus yours, but it's ours under God. It's ours. We both put into this. It's ours. One heart should produce one vision. For many couples, one bank account represents trust, transparency, and unity. For the other rest of them, say, no, this is mine, that's yours, let's keep it separated. You pay these bills, I'll pay these bills, and if you ain't got no money, that's tough luck. I see that. That is crazy to me. Some spouses don't even know what the other spouse makes. That's weird. That is crazy. And it was like, well, how can y'all get in unity? How can you have a vision for your marriage If you have two separate bank accounts, that's two visions, that's division. You're not in unity. You cannot be unified and have one vision with two separate goals. Now you're going to have individual goals, this and that, but if it's not one it's not one singular, we're going towards this, then your marriage is not in unity. Proverbs 3:9 says, honor the Lord with your wealth and with the best part of everything you produce. And then I alluded to this one, Matthew 6:21, wherever your treasure is, there the desires of your heart will also be. So finances is a big thing. If one's not in agreement to tithe, well, if say like the husband wants to tithe, the wife doesn't. Well, the husband's got to pull rank on that then, because you're the head of the household. And then my husband doesn't go to church. Okay, and this is something I didn't get into, but 1 Corinthians chapter 7 talks about that. How you cover, it says how you sanctify your wife. It doesn't, or sanctify the unbeliever. That doesn't mean save. That doesn't mean that because you're saved, they're saved. See, Christians actually twist that and say, oh, well, no, they're saved because I'm saved. No, it doesn't, which is why here in this house, we don't pray for y'all together. You have your own relationship with the Lord. Okay, we were in Bay City, and a lot of these weird couples wanted to hold each other's hands. And I was like, no, separate. I'm not going to pray for y'all together. And they looked at me like, what? Yeah, you're standing before God, and you're standing before God. Nobody made you come up here. I go, okay, and then they thought it was weird. And then it was the best thing, because then they were both able to receive individually. Okay, so it doesn't mean that because I'm saved, she's going to be saved. No, everybody has to have that relationship individually. And so that's what that scripture says. That's what it means. You don't save them salvationally, but it says that they're sanctified, meaning that because you have a relationship with God, the blessing through you can now be on the family, set apart, sanctified. God can bless the family because of you, but doesn't mean that your spouse is saved and going to heaven because you are saved. If anybody thought that, I hate to burst your bubble, but you need to study your Bible. That is not the word salvation. So it means sanctified. So that is one of the things that we see is finances. You need to be in agreement together with finances. Okay, does everybody understand that? Anybody got any questions on that? We're good? Everybody got the same bank account? All right.
Nope.
No, you're speaking for a friend. Okay. Hey, this is why we're doing it, though. This is why we're doing it, so that people can know. If you don't know, we were not taught this growing up. Nobody taught me and Pastor Patty how to have a great marriage. Nobody taught us this. And I want to encourage the elderly couples. Jim said old is not a bad word, so I'm going to say it. Okay, the older couples in here. Jim's like, I don't know why we think old's a bad word. It's not a bad word. And Jim, he's old, okay, so he said it out of his head. So he said, I don't know why we all think that's a bad word. It's not a bad word. I was like, okay, so the older couples, y'all have a responsibility to pass down the wisdom. I've said this before, you have our permission to take some of these younger couples underneath your wing. It'll make our job so much easier. It'll you teach them. Now, don't do it. I want to suggest this. It's hard to do it with your own sons and daughters. It's very hard. That's why you got to do it usually with somebody else. Because sons and daughters, I know them. Spouses, don't tell your parents everything. You young people, don't tell your parents everything. You do not need to tell them everything, because chances are you're mad in the moment. You hate that. Dear darling, I hate your stinking guts. And then a month later, you're back with the person you were just bashing to your parents. Now your parents hate them, but you love them again.
I'm going to say something on that. That's why I would never tell my mom anything. I would tell my mother-in-law, because I know she can't hate him. She'll love him forever.
There you go. That's wisdom. That's wisdom. And I would
She'll love him
never, yeah,
forever.
I would never tell my mom stuff. No, actually, I would try. My mom was like, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. You're probably just going to get back with them. I don't want to hear that. You're going to make me hate them. And I was like, you know what, Mom? That's a good advice. Like, I won't tell you. We tell our girls, don't tell us nothing. I don't want to know. Because, yeah, we don't want to know. I don't know why I got off on that. But what were we talking about? Anyway, somebody need to hear that. So, finances. So, okay, now number 5 is communication. Going back to what you were talking about, Mr. Martinez. Is anybody getting anything out of this? You're good? Okay, good. Okay, communication. Communication is probably the most important behind number 2, which is the love triangle. Communication. I wanted to end with these like real deep ones. Start with a deep one and end with a deep one. So, communication, clear communication protects the relationship. Clear communication protects the relationship. Just like Mr. Martinez was saying, Mr. Martinez said, "Hey, I feel like I'm with my, what did you say?
Cold.
Yeah.
Living with my brother.
Living with my brother."
Oh, yeah.
And that was a wake-up call. Had she not said nothing, she would have still been living with her brother today. No. But he wouldn't have known. We, like men, women, we're not that smart, okay? Sometimes we're just going to say it. We're not that smart. We can't read your mind because y'all thinking like 30 different things at one time. We cannot read your mind. We got to think about providing. We got to think about, the going to the work. It's hot outside, this and that. And then to come home and then like be physically drained. And then you get mad because the husband didn't do this. And it's like, I'm physically drained right now. Just tell me what, I'll do it. But you want him to think. I'm like, no, just tell him. Get past that. That's the compromising on the things. Like, okay, maybe he'll get it on the next time when he's not tired. He'll think about it. Same thing with the wives, husbands, they've been home with the kids all day, everything. So it's like, man, why didn't you make me food or anything like this? Like, or Jose, why didn't you go get me a plate? Why I gotta go get my own plate? It's like, well, maybe they're tired. It's the give and take. It's the balance of everything. Everything is all about balance. It's not going to be picture perfect all the time. It's not going to be everyone's going to get it right all the time. But if you don't communicate, you're never going to know. Never going to know. This one would love to go to bed mad and wait till the next day. I was like, why do you want to do that? Why do you want to be mad all night long? And I'm like, nah, we're going to talk about it now. I don't want to see you. Too bad. We're going to talk about it right now. She's like, no, give me time. You had it. We're going to talk about it right now. She does not like to do that. She wants to be left alone. I'm like, nah, if you leave me alone, my mind's going to start going. My mind's going to be like, what is she doing? This and that. Like, where does she go? One time she almost ran me over the car because I was like, we're going to talk about it right now. No. I was like, man. It was like an action movie. I was on the roof.
Hey, but you know what though? Like a lot of the times, like when something goes unsaid, when the argument times to start to talk, then that's when you always start bringing up the stuff you didn't say. So it's just like you add more and more on it instead of dealing with the one issue. But because you don't want to talk about it, you hide it or you suppress it. And then another one comes on and you don't want to talk about it. You hide it and suppress it. And then one you're willing to talk about and then boom. Then I didn't even know that was a problem. You didn't say nothing. So a lot of the times it is communication as far as like just to let people know or get it out there. It's communication. And so like with that, it's like, man, always remember of like, what is the subject title? Because we don't need to go into other things, with other titles. You know, so just stay on conversation.
Just to piggyback off that, 2 rules that we had when we first got married was, like you said, never go to sleep mad. And we've had some sleepless nights. And then the other one was, when the fight was over, don't fight about the fight you had before. Just
Yes.
keep it to this one subject,
Yes.
not go back and fight other fights that
Right,
you lost.
yes.
It was over. So that always worked.
That's good. Y'all need to write that down and send it to me. For a friend. Nah, just so communication, James 1:19, you must all be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to get angry. Proverbs 18:21 says the tongue can bring life or death. Your silence can be just as loud as your talk as well. Ephesians 4:29, which is a great one. You know, I know y'all don't let cuss words slip out because y'all all saved up in here, but don't use foul or abusive language. Let everything you say be good and helpful. You don't want to start cussing at your dogs or start cussing at your spouses or anything like that. Cuss at your dogs or into cussing anybody, okay? Don't cuss at all, but you know, some of y'all be not too saved up in here. Okay. So you have to, because that communication, clear communication can protect love, but destructive communication can kill that love as well. And so you want to make sure that you're communicating right. Because I was going to be a lawyer. I can cut you down with my words.
Yeah. Man, let me
I've done
add
that.
something to that real quick. And, you know, and we're not proud of this, the way it came down. But, you know, me and my wife's marriage was definitely not a marriage that you would say we're going to make it one day. You know, like it was a lot of selfishness on my part, me not knowing how to be a married man and thinking that as the Hispanic culture is that the wife's supposed to just stay home and take it, so to speak, you know, not go anywhere and be a faithful wife. So that was my mentality a lot of the times growing up. But in that though, like she had a lot of things to be angry about. And so she would use her words to hurt me as much as she can because of my actions was hurting her. And there was a point in our marriage where she would come up to me and she says, Jose, I love you. And as soon as she said that, I'm not playing with you, it was cringe to my ears because it hurt me when she said that she loved me. Because everything I was used to was, you're deadbeat, you're not a good husband, I hate you. And so it literally switched. All the abusive language now was completely normal. She could call me an a-hole and, you know, this and that, and it didn't even hurt my feelings. But she told me she loved me. That hurt, you know, because I'm like, man, you know what I mean? Like, that's a lie because I believe the other side, you know? And so that's the important part, you know? It's like really things like destructive words could be normal and good words could be foreign, you know? But that's an upside down marriage, you know? And so it wasn't until, you know, we got God in our life that things started flipping around.
Yeah, I tell like the young people too, like, cause sometimes they'll be joking around and call each other names, like joking around. I'm like, don't even do that.
Start it.
Don't even start it because it becomes normal. And then when you're mad, it comes up easier because
You've been joking like that.
around, and so don't even do that.
On the communication factor, but I heard you say you could have been an attorney and I could cut you to shreds. Isn't that a hindrance on communication with couples that could have that kind of personality where they feel that they can cut the other one to shred and the other one knows it, so they don't want to talk?
Yeah, that is true. I'm very good with my words in a negative standpoint. And so which is what I was going to say, I could manipulate and twist and do all that stuff. And so I would just wait for her to just say something and just, you know, just go at it and say it with a smile on my face. Yeah, you like that. Yeah. We're like, and would have to say something like real small. She'd be yelling at everything. I would just get that one little thing in there, knew that it was going to drive her crazy, and it would just boom. She'd up kick me in my throat and everything and all that stuff.
I've kicked you in the throat.
We was wild, we were wild. And so,
Two broken people.
yeah,
two
they
very
didn't know how to do any of this stuff.
Yeah.
Nobody showed us. We didn't know, like, we came from, our parents were married multiple times and all their marriages sucked. So it's like, man, what are we doing? We didn't know what we were doing. And so, so the communication was something we really had to work on. And so this is what I wrote down. Write this down. So say what you mean. Don't talk in code. Say what you mean. Literally. Well, that's not what I meant. That's what you said.
We were just talking about that.
Well, you know how I meant it. No, I'm going off of what you said. Say what you mean. Actually, right, exclamation point. Say it with love. Okay, say it with love. Listen to understand,
Yes.
not just to respond like I was doing. So say what you mean, say it with love, and listen to understand. That right there would probably save you so much trouble in any relationship, even your job, everything, right? Like everything. That's why I said this goes on like for every relationship. It's not just marriage or anything like that. So you're going to take a lot of this stuff and you can take it into your everyday lives and stuff. So if you're clear, that's why the Bible says, write the vision, make it plain so he who reads it can run with it. If it's like you've got to decode it and are you saying amen or you got something? Oh, okay. You're like, amen. Yeah.
Well, I don't want to throw it off topic, but it's just on my mind. Like when you said one person needs more time versus another person wanting to fix it in the moment.
Uh-huh.
I guess like how can y'all both like balance it?
Yeah.
Okay, I know you need time, but I need to fix it now.
Mhm.
So then the person can, I think the anger of the person that needs the time, they want to take the time. Is that harder for the person that wants to fix it now? Like how can y'all, I guess, work together?
So what I noticed, a lot of it was, for really both of us, and you have to really understand, like, it's a pride issue. I want to talk about it now, or I'm gonna wait to talk about it. For me, I love to hold on to grudges. Like I was just, what, and I was good at it. Like I didn't care. I didn't want to.
Petty. No.
I was.
She was petty.
Yes. Yeah,
Petty
like,
Patty.
You know what? He doesn't want to talk about it,
Pastor Petty.
And,
No.
and that's what it was. Like I wouldn't talk for days, and I was okay with it. I was, but it wasn't the right way that I needed to be. We had to learn to communicate, and when like he still gives me some time, because if I don't cool down, then nothing out of my mouth is gonna be what needs to be said. It's just pure emotion, which is not also the right thing to do, And so we had to come to a common ground and talk about it. And so in the moment, situations would be going on, whatever, and we'd be quiet, whatever. He'd give me my time, and then when we were both cooled down, we talked about it, not argued about it, not yelled about it, not like pointing blame, whatever. And I would say what the problem was, or he would, and I would listen. And then he would be able to hear me, and he would listen, and then we'd be able to come together and apologize. But if for me, like I had to learn to like cool down too, because a lot of times, even like with my kids, in the moment you're like really, really mad. I have nothing nice to say right now, so I'm just gonna cool down. I don't want to say anything that I'm gonna regret. And then I'd wait, and then we talk normal, and I could listen to him. It wasn't just pure rage and anger about whatever happened in that moment. I had to learn to like let it go and really, really talk about it respectively. You have to be respectful towards each other.
And me was learning that, hey, okay, I'm gonna give you a little bit of time, but it ain't gonna be like a day.
Yeah.
No, you're not gonna fester on this. Because the more you fester, honestly, it can take a negative
Yes.
turn. You'll just get more pissed off. because you're just thinking about it. And a lot of people that need that time, what they'll do is they'll talk themselves even more mad, which is why I'm like, no, let's talk about it right now, But they'll be like, they'll just start angry, and like they'll just get more and more mad.
It's giving
Like,
more ground for
yeah.
the enemy too.
Yeah, it actually does. It gives more ground for the enemy to start throwing all these things in your head and everything. So like a little bit of time, yeah, not a lot of time, because then it's just like it just backfires. So you don't need no like talk to me tomorrow or like talk to me like next week or whatever and all that stuff. Like yeah, let a little bit of time go, and then cool down and then go.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
The listen to understand is really good, because when we would be arguing, he would be talking and I want to be listening. I would just be thinking about, what am I going to say? What am I going to say next? What's my comeback?
Yeah.
And so I want to be listening to him to understand. So that's really good. And then it isn't a good idea to talk in the anger, because when we would try to talk when we were angry, I was really angry, and my wall would go up, and I'd start getting sarcastic, and that would make him more mad. And he's the one that he wants to talk. I want space. And so, but that listening to understand, that's really good.
And that's actually what I was going to say. Most times communication is broke up already if the person is thinking what they're going to respond at. That means you're not listening. So it's always important, like to reaffirm conversation properly is when you hear something, then you repeat it back. I think that you're saying this. This is what I'm hearing you say right now. Because I always say, like, this is my main thing of communication, is that you never get to tell the other person how to decode what you said. Because they're going to take, the context, they're going to take facial expressions, tone of voice, and they're going to take the words that are being said, and then they're going to decode it into their brain and say, you said it with this heart. You know what I mean? So it's important to ask, like, I'm hearing you say this, and that's how, when like conversations, is starting to be, worked off. The second thing that I will say about this, and again, we're all adults here, is that no matter what, if alcohol is involved, that means that you guys need to take a break and don't pursue that conversation under the influence of alcohol. We've had so many arguments, and, at the time we were both drinking, and that's gasoline on an argument. You know what I mean? So going away from each other and saying, like, you know what, we're not going to be doing that, Exactly. Sometimes it's like, hey, let's have a clear head in our conversations. So whenever you think about what outside influences is gauging this conversation, and if there's external influences, then that means that conversation should probably take a break real quick until both heads are rationally, thinking, about it. Because half the time is like, I can't believe I said that. I'm sorry. I don't feel that way, and then half the time is like, hey, I don't think you're a bad dad, or whatever it is. Because it is like, you could end up being each other's punching bag.
Yeah.
And
going, if y'all are drinking and you're constantly fighting, first of all, you shouldn't be drinking to get drunk. So you're already sinning. Then you're just adding more sin to it. Stop it. Just stop it. Just y'all shouldn't be doing that. This is what I talk about. She upkicked me because she was drunk. Okay? She kicked me up in the throat. And yeah, because when we got together, we were going out all the time, and she would try to fight me. This little girl, fight me. She freaking upkicked me in the throat. I was standing over. She's like, oh yeah. She didn't remember nothing because she liked to drink. She was a sitting sinner, and so like. The communication, if you know that's going to irritate the other person, don't do it. If you know that this person, or this person can't, this person, like we were raised in church at if y'all were raised in Cornerstone Church, y'all know how we were all raised. Drinking wasn't a sin, getting drunk is. But if you cannot stop without getting drunk, then don't drink at all. You just stay away from it. You have to guard your relationship. You have to do that. So, that's a debate of we could debate, go round and round. It was grape juice. We went to Israel and they told us it was not grape juice. Okay, it was some good wine. They gave it to us. We drank it. It was great. So it was, that's what they told us. They said, y'all Christians think that it was grape juice. It was made right here, And so I was like, so it was real alcohol. And they're like, yes. I was like, okay. So if you cannot do that, don't do it. That's between you and the Lord, okay? But I'm telling y'all, don't do it. If you have a problem with wandering eyes, don't watch movies with nudity in it. If you have a problem, like any problem that you have, cut it out of so it won't affect your relationship. It's simple as that. Well, I like to do this. Well, then you don't love your spouse because you're taking your like over your supposed love for your person. So you have to you have to make those sacrifices. So, okay.
I want to just.
I keep trying to number 6, guys. It's them.
Well, this is going to segue into son and daughtership, okay? But I want to talk about, just because it's something that I struggled with, and it's wives submitting to your husbands, as you do to the Lord. I had a hard time understanding what submitting was. It was, pretty much I could do all that by myself, and I did. And it wasn't in a good way, like a cool way, But I had to learn that, I had to submit to him as a husband. And submitting isn't just like letting him trample all over you, but it's being respectful. It's having regard and deeply caring for your husband. Allowing your husband to enforce rules and being agreeable with it and setting those boundaries for the household. It's important for us to understand that. Never talk about something in front of your children. If you're arguing, take it to the other room. You don't want your children to have to witness things like that. I'm only saying that, again, 1, from experience, and 2, I experienced that when I was growing up as a kid, It's not a safe place, and some things children don't need to see. They don't understand that. Their little minds don't know. If you don't respect your husband in front of your children are not going to respect their father. And that has to be like number 1. It's super important. If you're trying to edify your husband and encourage him to be the man of the household, but you can't touch this subject, then that's not full unity. The man has to be the head of the household. Now there has to be conversations and things that have to be had to make sure that you're on the same common ground, yes. But once it's established, this is where it's at. Again, like with mixed families, I didn't want him to be telling my children what to do. It was hard for me. But they needed that father standpoint. They needed that hardness. I always wanted to coddle and protect, and that's not okay because, especially even for daughters, they needed a father. It's so important. And because I had such a hard time, I saw where those faults were of them being, children that didn't have a father figure, that needed that discipline, that needed those father voices. And so I just wanted to really speak on that. Because that was something that I struggled with. And once I let go and let him be the man that he needed to be for the children, things changed. The children changed, the girls. Now, they have a great relationship with them, and I'm so thankful that they can come to them, him as the father. If I would have kept that severed, then they never really would have had a father that could give them the sound advice, godly advice that they needed to.
Yeah.
And so what I was saying is like segueing into sonship and daughtership is edifying your spouse and seeing them as a child of God and being respectful towards them.
Only because we have some mixed relationships in here, mixed marriages and stuff. I'll tell you what, as a man, it is so hard to try to be the head of the household when you feel you're only head of part of the household and this other part is off limits. How can I be the head of the household if you're telling me that I can only do this in this half and the other half is I can't touch? That is the hardest thing as a man to do. And oh, I want you to provide for my kids, but you better not tell them nothing. I want you to do this, but you better not say nothing. No, either he's head or he's not. That's just the way it is. Like, that's the Bible. Either he's going to be able to have that ability to speak into, or he's not. And then if he's not, I can guarantee you, speaking from experience, they can't wait till that kid leaves the house. It's just the way it is. They can't wait, because especially if they have their own kids, like, I can't wait for that little guy to go, because that's just messing up everything. And then the mom will be like, yeah, I ain't never leaving. Well, and then you have the division. Well, this is my kid and that's your kid. I'm gonna raise the way I want to, and you're gonna raise the way they want. Then your whole marriage is jacked up from there, you know. So just speaking from experience, from the blended relationships. Okay, number 6, our final thing. If we wouldn't have ate, we would have been out early. So I blame it, y'all slow eaters. Okay, it's probably next time we won't feed y'all. We'll get out at an earlier time. But it's Friday, right? 3-day weekend. Y'all are good. Y'all used to stay out later when y'all partied and upkick people in the throat. Number 6 is sonship and daughtership. I wanted to close it out on a banger. Sonship and daughtership. Get your ship together.
I like it. I like it.
This is probably the most, I'm saying this with every point. This is the most important one. They're all good. But this is probably going to be the most important between when you come into hardships or something, like, with the third ship, the hardship, when you come into trying times, when you come into disappointments, when you come into like, man, you let me down. How could you ever do that? This and that. When it comes to like immorality or infidelity or something like that, hopefully you'll never go through that. But I'm pretty sure some of the older couples, remember, it's not a bad word, has probably been through some of that before. Some of y'all younger ones have probably been through that. Fortunately, we've never been on the cheating part or anything, never had to deal with that. But the whole, like, how could you look at that? How could you, this and that? It changes when you get this revelation of sonship and daughtership. Everything changes when that happens. When you realize that before they are your spouse, they are God's son and daughter. Before they're your spouse, they are God's son and daughter. We counseled with one of the younger couples this past week, and I told them that, like, hey, your responsibility now is to treat her as a daughter of the Lord. You got to remember that. Wives, your responsibility is to remember, like, that is God's son. And that will be the easiest way to get over the hard parts of the relationship. 2 Corinthians 6:18 says this, and I will be your father, and you will be my sons and daughters, says the Lord Almighty. That's why I said there's no marriage in heaven, right? Because we're all his sons and daughters. We're not gonna be married. Why? Because here we're making a covenant, but there we're married to him, and we're the sons and daughters of God. 1 Peter 3:7 says this. It says, treat your wife with understanding as you live together. Treat her as you should. So it applies to wives treating your husbands that way too. It says, treat them as you should, so your prayers will not be hindered. So you treat them as a son and a daughter, and your prayers won't be hindered. You cannot mistreat God's child and expect God to bless the relationship. can't be treating them like trash. Like, this is a piece of property. This is mine. You're mine. I can treat you however I want. And then expect God's hand of favor to be on your marriage, to be in your relationship. Whether your boyfriend, your girlfriend, whether your friendships, you cannot treat each other like garbage and expect that relationship to be favored by God. One of the biggest things that we hear is when we counsel all the young couples is their like disdain for one another when they're irritated or when they're doing wrong toward each other. And they're like, well, they're going like, do you, and Patty, like this woman right here is like the epitome of this, of learning this and that the sonship and daughtership thing. And then I say, hey, you need to talk to my wife because you need to understand. And she showed me this, that's not your husband before he is a son. And you're praying and attacking and asking God to do this to his own son. You know, that's why Sarah said, I would go tell what did you say? You would go,
Mother-in-law.
the mother-in-law, because she can't hate him.
Yeah, she'll love him forever.
Yeah. Whose mic is that? That's yours. Okay. Yeah, she's gonna love him. She's not gonna hate him. Well, you go tell someone else's parent that or whatever, they're gonna be mad, right? You go talk trash about their son or their daughter, they're gonna be mad. It don't matter what relationship you got with them, they're gonna be mad. And so you just got to remember that. So if you're going and complaining to God and saying, you know, you need to take